Hello, and welcome to the Campus of the Future. I'm Dave Karpuk from Planon, and I want to take you on a brief trip to the future, not too far in the future, maybe 5 years from now, and introduce you to some of the people that you might meet on our fictional campus at Futura University. First, I'd like to introduce you to Matt, a student at Futura. Matt's a freshman. He lives at home with his parents, commutes about 30 minutes to campus every day for class. In addition, he juggles a part-time job with his course schedule. Like many college students today, Matt uses an app on his smartphone to handle a lot of his educational needs. The online course catalog allows him to find a course, elect whether to take it in person or online, enroll, and find out where classes will meet. On the first day of class, Matt faces a challenge that's familiar to many of you, I'm sure, finding a parking spot on a crowded campus. Fortunately, Futura has provided a campus parking feature in its app that allows him to search for an available space and reserve it. A code that's sent to him from the app gives him access when he arrives on campus. So now that parking is handled, Matt uses other features of his app to determine the most efficient walking route to his classroom, and to reserve a left-handed seat so that he can take notes comfortably. Note that Futura's robust 5G network allows him to navigate seamlessly, whether indoors or outdoors, combining exterior maps with interior floor plans to have complete wayfinding from end to end. Having successfully made it through that class, Matt wants to find a comfortable place to grab a bite and study. His app allows him to put in an order for pickup at a nearby campus cafe and helps him to find an available spot to relax and study. While he works, he can use that same app to order beverages and snacks, and they'll be delivered to him by robotic servers. Robots are a common presence in Futura's common spaces, not only delivering refreshments, but patrolling for waste, picking it up and sorting it for recycle, reuse, and composting. Now let's turn our attention to Viola, an assistant professor in biochemistry. She's doing research enabled by a National Science Foundation grant, and also working with a private sector partner to synthesize an important enzyme. Viola is able to avoid problems of parking and traffic by making use every day of a facility rideshare program Futura has instituted. This program allows her to schedule trips from home to campus and between campus locations in a driverless, emissionless vehicle that helps to support the university's zero net carbon goal. In her lab, where she spends most of her days, Viola has access to a variety of advanced technologies that support her work. Voice recognition to take down lab notes as she dictates them, voice commands to control equipment and room conditions, automatic sensing of occupancy and movement by her team, and of course robots to sort and remove lab waste, including hazardous waste. Futura's research facilities ensure both personal safety and information security for Viola and her team, using biometrics to control access without reliance on keys or cards that could be stolen or misplaced, and giving her access to detailed records of who has been in the spaces that are under her control. Let's move on to another faculty member, Henry, an English professor who's teaching 2 courses and planning a high-profile symposium that will attract visitors from around the world. Like Viola's lab space, Henry's lecture halls and classrooms are equipped with technology that recognizes people, records activities, sets climate conditions, and adjusts other factors to meet his needs, without him having to take explicit actions. His computer connects automatically to the room's projection system when he walks in, The speakers adjust to his typical speaking volume, and broadcast and recording capabilities allow students to participate fully in his classes, even if they can't make it into the room. As in Viola's lab, Henry's seminar room is set up to take minutes of class discussions. In this case, they're distributed to Henry and to the students within a few hours of class. Now, as he gets ready for this symposium that he is planning, Henry's able to use the campus's sophisticated event planning software system to make all of the arrangements he needs, determining optimum dates, appropriate rooms, distribution of invitations, collection of RSVPs, as well as catering, security, and other basic needs of an event. Even hotel booking for visitors is managed through the system. Henry can rely on smooth preparations, but all things being still under human control, he will be alerted if anything goes wrong as the event approaches so that he can step in and make any needed adjustments. Now, Henry and Viola are both fairly traditional faculty members for a university. I want to introduce you to one more recent addition that may be unusual, but I think will become more common on university campuses as we move into this future. And that's Marty. He represents a corporation that has partnered with Futura to offer programs that train potential future workers for his company. His company has recognized that this war on talent we hear about is real. And it's becoming a challenge for companies like his to recruit people with the proper skill sets to do the work that they need. Marty's firm has decided to respond by creating the talent it needs out of the ranks of the student body. As a result of the agreement between the school and the corporation, Marty has access to the same tools that traditional university staff use to plan, schedule, record, and broadcast courses that can be taken by Futura's students in person or virtually. His company provides scholarship and work-study program options in conjunction with the university administration and builds its ranks with interns and junior employees recruited from classroom exercises. Students and faculty may have the highest profiles in the university, but all of you know that any university, including Futura, relies on a large staff to make sure that the academic mission can be fulfilled. So let's take a moment to highlight Sandra, a master electrician on the facilities team. Sandra has important responsibilities supporting the housing and dining functions. And because Futura has determined that workers like her are most effective when they're out in the field, they've equipped her with technologies to allow her to be completely mobile in her work. Sandra's mobile app acts as a personal assistant. It provides her with updated schedules, work orders, routing, notifications of changes. Like Matt's student app, Sandra's app utilizes the campus's 5G network to make sure that she's automatically and seamlessly connected wherever she is. It allows her to update work, order parts, record information, retrieve documents, and handle other details of her job. Sandra's efforts to work efficiently are also supported by Futura's fleet of drones, which transport materials she needs from the stockroom to her various job sites, and can even bring her lunch if she doesn't want to take time to go to a cafe on campus. And of course, there's robots. There's always robots when it's my vision of the future. In Sandra's case, she can use them to perform work in hazardous or limited access areas that would be difficult for her to see and to perform tasks. They can also photograph conditions that would otherwise require a second worker to join her in her efforts. Now, enabling Sandra's work are recent Futura graduates like Sam, who has found that the campus abounds in opportunities for them to secure jobs that utilize the skills that they've developed in school. Sam is a data analyst. She works at Futura's central call center, monitoring data from smart connected equipment, trouble calls, technician updates, usage patterns, and more in order to streamline maintenance and operations processes conducted by Futura's large in-house FM team. Virtually every facility worker on campus benefits from Sam's efforts to continually improve processes by marrying data-driven information with human observation. And through this, Futura has found that 75% of the maintenance and operations work on campus has become predictable. It's become routine rather than emergency work. There's still always those cases where emergencies happen, but the ratio has changed dramatically because of workers like Sam who are able to look at data based on what has happened and make accurate predictions about what will happen. Now finally, let's move on up the ladder and take a peek at what Futura's president, Ron, is up to. Ron has had a distinguished career in education, and he's in his 4th year in the president's office. He's looking at how Futura must adapt to meet the future in the face of rising costs. And yes, he's made it his mission to be a good neighbor to the residents and businesses in the college town. Ron's chief need is for information, not just raw data, but information that's been compiled, sorted, filtered, and analyzed by people like Sam to show him trends, trouble spots, and opportunities. He wants to know how people, students, faculty, alumni, local businesses, community groups, others are using the campus. What's popular? What needs improvement? What's likely to change in the next few years? And in a world where universities are increasingly in competition for students, how are his efforts stacking up against those of his peers? One thing Ron has determined for sure is that he can get more value out of Futura's huge investment in its campus by making sure facilities and resources are used as much of the time as possible. He looks at how businesses are interacting and partnering with Futura's academic programs, people like Marty who have been invited onto the campus to help students make the transition into the working world. What are the costs and revenue implications of programs like this? How can he increase their level of support? Ron is also keenly conscious of Futura's social responsibility and keeps close watch on the effectiveness of sustainability efforts, including the costs of utilizing sustainable methods. Athletics, the arts, traffic, and parking are all part of the big picture that he has to manage, and all are visible to him through Futura's sophisticated data collection and analytics. Now, thank you for taking this little trip with me. Now I want to come back to the present and introduce you to another few characters who happen to be sitting here with me on stage and talk about how we can move towards visions like this example. So the 3 folks here on stage are all involved in an effort that my company, Planon, has been undertaking over the last 4 or 5 months. And that is a blue ribbon panel to define the higher education campus of the future and its management needs. So first I'd like to introduce Larry Barkley, who is with Barkley Consulting Group. You heard him earlier. As a CFTA partner, Larry has served as the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Panel. Next to him is Fred Gulen, who you also heard from a little bit earlier. Fred is my CEO for Planon in North America, and Fred is, of course, the executive sponsor of this effort. He enabled us to move forward with it and conduct all the activities that we needed to fulfill our mission. And next to him is Gretchen Tucker from University of Kentucky, who graciously agreed to serve as a member of the panel, provided a lot of practical information about how her campus is used, what her university is trying to do moving into the future, the tools that they use like GIS and CAD and BIM and others, and the advances that they are looking forward to making. The panel was formed back in February of this year with a 90-day mission and first presented its findings about a month ago at the Planon User Conference. Other members of the panel are depicted here. They were not able to make it to this conference, but their work is evident in everything that we will talk about. Nathan Moore from Michigan State University, Pat Turnbull with Illinois Institute of Technology, Tony Malagrino with California State University at Long Beach, Joseph Astenza from New York University Hospital Center, and Bruce Bashwiner from University of Rochester. When we began looking at this question of the campus of the future, we decided to look at 5 areas of focus. Place. The campus is a physical place, and we believe it will remain a physical place of much importance in the higher education realm. It's not going to go away. But the people who populate it and use it and gain benefit from it are changing. And the place itself will need to respond to those changes, is already responding to those changes. Larry, I'm sure, will have a lot to say about the changing demographics, the different kinds of people, and the pressures that they have. With regard to the next 3 issues, technology. Technology, as you all know, that's why you're here at this conference, right, is changing at an alarming pace in some cases. Those robots that I'm so enamored with are becoming reality on campuses and are becoming realities in business and will continue to do so, taking over tasks that are dangerous, challenging, or in some cases too routine and too repetitive to waste human talent on. Because students are changing, because faculty are changing, because needs of the economy are changing, educational techniques are changing. And we took a long while to look at how the campus will need to respond to different ways of learning, different ways of teaching, different forms of delivery. And then finally, economics, a huge driver of this change. The traditional 4-year educational pattern still exists, is still very important, but it is now being complemented and supplemented by all kinds of new patterns of school attendance that are dictated by economic need. We have a lot of older students. We have a lot of non-traditional students. We have a lot of students who are very much directed into programs like Marty's that are marrying corporate needs with educational needs. So this is the mission statement, the problem statement that the Blue Ribbon panel worked on. I don't want to read the whole thing. As you can see, there's quite a few words there, and I'd rather have the words come from our panelists, but you will get access to this through CFTA. And briefly, our methodology. We asked early on, as soon as Fred authorized this effort, we asked Larry to take on the role of chairman of it. And we had a support team, people from Planon, myself, Jennifer Fitz, who's over there, Zachary Hess, a couple of others within the organization who spent time doing targeted research in these areas, developing use cases like the ones that I just presented, drafting documents, and producing a final report, which is still in progress. We hope to have it out within the next 30 days. Will appear on Planon's website, and I'm sure we'll link it to CFTA's website so that you all can have a look at it. Our panel members, we valued their time, so we used them to mark up draft documents, just research notes that we had produced. We did extensive interviews with each of them and held a number of webinars to solicit their input and to get them to interact with each other about the issues that we were talking about. So I want to end the slideshow with just a picture that I found compelling. If some of you can remember as far back as the turn of the new year in January, there was a thing going on Facebook where they had a 10-year challenge and you were supposed to post a picture from 10 years ago and a picture today. Well, this is a picture of a classroom 1,000 years ago at a university and a classroom today. As you can see, there's a lecturer standing in front of a group of students, some of whom are listening and taking notes, some of whom are sleeping, some of whom are gossiping, and there really isn't a whole lot of difference between the way that that room looked 1,000 years ago and the way it does today. But we think that's beginning to change and is about to change dramatically. So on that note, I want to open the floor to the panel, and I want to start off by asking Larry, as our chairman, a question. And please, I've got two people, Jennifer and Antonia, who have microphones. If you would like to ask a question, please just raise your hand. One of them will come to you. I'll spot you, and we'll get you on the record. But just to get things started, Larry, you spent a lot of time delving into the forces of change in the economy, the way that dollars are making a difference in the way students are being educated. What do you think is the most important force of change within that realm of economics?
Wow. Thanks for the question, Dave. We have such little time to convey what we have picked up so far, so the depth of the information is going to be in the report. But to answer Dave's question, funding in higher education is something that I've studied deeply and interested in. And all you have to do is read in the Chronicle lately about the University of Alaska, right? And what is going on up there with the funding decreases. Chronicle also had an article on LSU where in the last 10 years their funding from the state has decreased 50%. They have a $700 million deferred maintenance backlog, and they just built a $28 million football stadium. So how do we rationalize all of that? Funding for higher education is under attack. And what we're seeing as ways to leverage that, Dave alluded to in the day in the life, is more P3 partnerships. Where is this money going to come from? How do we take care of all that deferred maintenance? How do we shift it to the digital environment that Dave so beautifully described? Well, what's happening is we're seeing corporations step up and provide the funding, share the revenue that comes from building a new residence hall or a parking garage or whatever. That's going to be a major shift for all of you out there and all of us in FM. We're going to have to deal with that kind of thing. Now that impact is going to be different according to the kind of institution you are a member of. And I would turn to the Carnegie classification to try to describe that. If you're a prestigious Ivy League school or have a huge investment and a huge portfolio, you're probably going to be less impacted by the changes. But if you're in a private school, liberal arts school, we see NACUBO recently announced that 54% of the liberal arts colleges had a tuition abatement program last year to mitigate the high cost of tuition. So there's multiple forces going on, and the point is that Dave, I think, is trying to point to is that change is here, but it's distributed unevenly. So the way this impact is going to hit your school will depend on the Carnegie classification you're in, and that will be true also with enrollment as the shift in the type of student and the nature of the students shift as well. So that's about as brief as I can make it, Dave, but there's a lot there. Yeah.
There is a lot there, and thank you for that. Any questions from the audience yet? If not, I'm going to move on to Gretchen. And Gretchen, I alluded to briefly in my presentation the issue of security, mostly in terms of information security, but also when I talked about Ron, the university president, and his efforts to have the campus be more of a 24/7 operation, to keep things in use, to keep people trafficking through the campus. That raises questions of physical security and safety of students, of faculty, of young people who in some cases are still legally children, and whose parents care very much about, their security while they're on campus. I wonder if you have any thoughts about how you see security at University of Kentucky changing, or how you foresee things that might have to happen to keep the campus safe and secure for the populations that use it.
Well, keeping the students and the faculty and your visitors, everybody coming to campus, is obviously, keeping them safe and having them feel secure, as well as having them feel that their contents are secure, is definitely something on many people's minds. Our campus has implemented years ago did walking paths where they made sure they were well lit, and we put them on the campus maps so people would have an idea of this is where it's going to be more visible, you're going to be, it's more highly policed. And then more recently having security cameras placed throughout the campus on buildings, and it's not public knowledge as to where those cameras are. I don't even know where they are. I know some of our IT people do know where they are, but it's kept pretty tight reins on where those cameras are. And that's for the very reason of if I know that I'm in a place that's not being watched, I might take that as an opportunity to do harm. So those kind of aspects are being taken into account. I think too, though, one area that may need to be looked at more deeply is trying to utilize space. I know that there's been a lot of analysis as to when is space not being used. Can we, instead of building more buildings or expanding a building, can we use space, have classes at different times of day? Can we have classes in the evenings, on the weekends? But if that's going to be a consideration, make sure that you're really considering the safety aspect of that. Do you have the policing, the staff to police that and respond to any incidents during that time, as well as your facilities folks? Are you trying to have classes or events during times when that's really the only time maintenance can happen, whether it's your cleaning crew, and do you have the staffing to maintain the HVAC? Does your Delta room, are they prepared to be monitoring these spaces during times if you're going to be expanding your classroom and visitor time? I don't know if that, I kind of that's diverged
great.
Off the topic a little bit there.
Hey, that's what it's all about. That's how we learn. Thank you. Fred, I want to ask you a question. I mean, you're a software vendor. That's our lives at Planon. You talked a little bit this morning in your 3-minute session about people and about the importance of people. Well, I think the project that we've done here is all about people, but the original mission, as we posted there, was really about how do we define the management needs for a system for the campus of the future, which means that folks out here who are looking to achieve that vision are going to be going through vendor evaluations, selections, all of those kinds of activities that probably pretty much everybody in this room has been part of at some point or another. What advice would you give these people about, how should they go about selecting their management system to deal with the future that we've depicted here?
Yeah, thank you, thank you, Dave. Well, I think first of all, it is a true challenge. It is a very complex job to figure out what you need and how you're going to select it. What I see though, and what always surprises me a little, is those huge lists of requirements on functionality. It is sometimes I think if I go to buy a car, I'm not going to put on my list of requirements whether can I go left, and then will the light go on, or can I, what is all in the motor, or what is exactly this and that. So that huge list of details. I think that how the process works is that universities, they collect teams from each department, and probably they are describing what they are doing at that point and what their processes are at that point. And meaning also, so what does the system needs to do for solving our problems now? But I think at the end, that's not the reason why you buy a new system, why you select a new system. Also, you want to change something. So it is better to focus more on what you want to achieve and what is the direction you want to go. And so what I don't see a lot of times is that an RFP really starts with the mission and the strategy, then looking at what tactics are we going to use from a facility and real estate perspective to achieve and contribute to that mission, and then going back down to the actions. From management perspective and what it all needs to do, it works the other way around, that you need then the data bottom up and that you are able to roll it up. And I would say taking also the fact that a selection process until the start of the project, until the go live, is probably somewhere between 2 and 3 years. Look 3 years back, the world has dramatically changed. The technology that is available in 3 years from now will be completely different from what we have now. So I would think that it makes sense to pay more attention to other aspects of in the selection process. Like, will my vendor still exist in 5 years from now? Will a technology or a platform that I choose, will it be indeed flexible to connect and to interact and to react to all the new technologies that will evolve in the coming years? And, and will I have a partner that is going that journey together with me? Because most of you don't know exactly what is going to happen. You need advice. We don't know exactly what is going to happen. We need your input. So it is a little bit, as I call it a lot of times, it is a sort of an invisible path that we start and that we go. And I love to have a partner that I can trust and that I can is smart and can go that way together. So I would say, think about it when you prepare your list of requirements and what functionality, and remain as flexible as possible and relate everything to the mission and the strategy, because if you have in your mission to become completely online in 5 years from now, then you don't need a system that looks after the maintenance of your physical facilities. So I think that's where still a lot can be done.
Okay, Larry, do you have something to add to that?
I would like to add on what Fred has to say. I like what Fred has to say because that's what I see out there. We are agnostic. It doesn't matter to us about technology. Yes, it matters, but we're not financially responsibility involved with software. But what I think what Fred is saying is, and what we're seeing in this report, what the future that Dave outlined, technology is ubiquitous. It's everywhere, all the time, everywhere on, and my background is I started out in CAD, but it's more, we are more functionally focused rather than focused on what the experience of the user is. And the way I see it, adding on to Fred's comment, FM, all of you, all of us, we need to think outside of the box. We need to look at what else is going on, not just the unique, discrete piece of technology. BAS, IoT, telecom, CCTV, access, all of that is viewed by the person experiencing it as a single system. And I think FM needs to more fully embrace that overall look. Here's a trend, and the downside is this, what we're seeing. A lot of FM IT departments are being reabsorbed back into central IT. And I think it's a function of what I just was talking about. They're looking at it as an enterprise solution not as just an FM solution. And we have to grow into that or be absorbed. And that's not a threat, that's just an opportunity, as I see it, to expand what we do and how we do it. So that's all. Yeah.
Gretchen, did you have any thoughts on that topic?
No.
Ready for me to throw you a new one? How about, does anyone from the audience out here have any questions they'd like to ask the panel? Boy, you're making it hard on the moderator.
I would ask the audience the question, don't you feel that it is that you're all reinventing the wheel every time, making those huge RFPs, we see a lot of them, and to be honest, 90% of the content is the same. And so can't we think about a more smart way of selecting the technology that you need and that will address the requirements of your future? Has anybody done it differently? No, I cannot entice anybody.
They're gonna stonewall us.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
Michelle.
I mean, I just think that that's the purpose of all of us here. I mean, I've been talking to you a little bit on, yeah, thank you. We had an interesting bar conversation last night. But it was like, how simple and straightforward would it be if there was a standardized RFP for IWMS, for document management solutions, for fill in the blank. And there were a streamlined set of questions based on, are you going for a complex, mid-complex, a light solution? And then based on you wanting a light solution and having a 50-question list, maybe deducing what those 30 are of importance to me. And just starting there, And I think that would be a huge value add of a task force within CFTA, a partner-based task force with our members working together to develop some sort of repository of that. Now, CFTA, of course, our goal is to have a portal for members to log in and download and upload their content to develop that stuff. So I think that reinventing the wheel is what we are all doing right now, and it is painful. And so having some sort of small work groups together to kind of identify the pain points and strategize on this, it would save all of us so much time and money.
Okay, let's, Gretchen, I want to get back to the future with you here.
Okay.
and again, to talk about a topic that I know you have spent time thinking about and working about, and that is a question that I dealt with in the story of Matt, our student, who is a commuter, drives to campus every day, has to navigate through campus, find parking, wayfind. How have you seen either your university or peers, universities that you talk to, begin to deal with traffic and parking in innovative ways?
Does Matt have a DeLorean?
Next year, when he's a sophomore.
Oh, okay. So at University of Kentucky, the transportation department did a 5-year plan very similar to how all of campuses do their planning ahead of time. And a little bit about our university, we are still quite a bit of a commuter school. We have about 30,000 students. Not all of them, and our housing certainly isn't housing all of those 30,000 students. And we have a faculty of about 16,000. So addressing the number of people that come in, many of them are coming in from counties surrounding the area. I think it's 120 counties are represented at the University of Kentucky. And you have to understand, Kentucky has tons of little tiny counties. And some of them have up to an hour commute. How are we going to, those are people that are not going to be able to access alternative modes of transportation. But the people that live within Lexington, which is not that large of an area, the transportation department worked with the sustainability teams to really look at how can we entice the people that can access alternative means of transportation. What would bring them to do that? They implemented a bike voucher program. They started a commuter club, and they did some other incentives, such as if you already had a parking permit, if you gave up your parking permit, you would then have, they would give you money towards purchasing a bike. They worked with the city busing service to have, instead of two separate services, they now work together and have one service where the city has the buses that go through campus, but we can also, as staff or student, we have free rides all over town. So many just not very complex, they were able to bring down the amount of people commuting, and every year they have more people wanting to participate in these incentive programs, and so they're expanding them as we have more interest in them. They also have studied and begun implementing more tiered parking systems, and I know that there's a lot of grumbling about that. I don't understand it, but that's one, I know that that's a deterrent for me. If I park on one part of campus, I don't know where I can park. It's very complicated. Unfortunately, I had to buy a parking permit recently. I usually bike to work, but with that, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to park. And at first I think, that's awful. I don't understand what's going on. But then on another flip side of that is it's complicated. It's easier for me to ride the bus. It's easier for me to ride my bike than it is to figure out where I want to park. And I have to admire in some ways the complexity of that, because it is a deterrent to driving, and that's what their goal was. I think that's what one of the goals was.
May I ask a question, Gretchen?
Yes.
Do you, in your planning in the little bit further future with your parking availabilities, do you already think about the self-driving cars? So a student just comes in, goes to the front door, gets out, and the car will park itself in 5 miles from there?
At this point, they are not looking at self-driving cars or even commuting from the faraway counties, but they have looked at car share, ride share. There are some companies that have, Zipcar is one company that, for the residents that do come to live on campus, if they don't bring a car, they are eligible for some of the other incentives. I don't think Kentucky's quite ready for the self-driving.
Or the rest of the world, maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I want to ask all three of you, we talk about, the new technologies, my favorite, robots, drones, 5G networks. What are your greatest hopes and your greatest fears with regard to the introduction of some of these new technologies in the campus environment?
I want to comment on when we were in Chicago at the user conference, and pardon me, I don't remember who it was, but another one of the panel members mentioned that their campus has robots that shovel. They go out and do the shoveling of the sidewalks, and it had never really occurred to me how important, in many areas of the country, how necessary that would be.
Yeah, I think that was Michigan State University
Yeah.
that has started using robots for that purpose. Makes all the sense in the world, right?
Yes.
Saves a lot of people's backs and knees. Yeah, Larry.
Yeah, one thing we haven't raised into discussion here today, and there's so much in the report, is about the change in the classroom, the expectations of the students coming in, and the kind of interaction, the kind of pedagogical experience that they want, which is way, way different than when I was in undergrad school and in grad schools both. So we saw an evidence of that at Illinois Institute of Technology, or now called Illinois Tech, where they are moving to a more collaborative, interactive kind of setting in a building that they've designed for all of that. And you asked the question, what should we be concerned about? Sometimes we don't understand what the implications of that is, whatever the word is, for facilities. And what am I talking about? Well, when we toured that facility where they had this highly interactive environment and it's highly adaptive, chairs move around, whiteboards, there's no whiteboards anymore, there's white walls, and everybody writes on the walls. And, but it wasn't clear in some of the situations that those weren't white walls, they were actually walls. And so people were writing on them. And so we're seeing that we have to learn about what the implications are to FM. And you asked what should we be concerned about? Well, just be open, be ready, because things are changing, because the head of maintenance there said, we didn't anticipate that. And by the way, that space is open 24/7, so people are in there all the time. So we got to double back, triple back on custodial. There's a lot of implications that come from this technological change that we think is simple and won't impact us, but I think it's going to impact all of us a lot in ways we don't even know.
Although it's very interesting what you say about for the impact for the facility management group. I think you have a fantastic future. You will get access to so much more technology, so much more opportunities than you have today. And so you indeed, I think campuses with a lot of deferred maintenance will be history very quickly. Because just an example, in UK, a large university, they already use drones for their entire buildings inspections and for assessing where the heat is leaving the building. And they use, and there are a lot of storms in the UK, so after a big storm, they used to send people up to, just human beings, up to with ladders to go up to the roof and to inspect. And now it's just a drone. And the investment of one drone is $15,000. And you can connect it to your IWMS system, and the work orders are automatically created. So what we see is huge possibilities in productivity gains, and at the end resulting in what I talked about this morning, in a far better experience of your staff, of students, because they will have far more facilities that are available to them. And we talked at Long Beach, California CSU, they have that robot Pepper. It was also at IIT, they had one. And just have that Pepper, walking or riding or walking, I don't know what word we have to use, but around the campus. And as an information, and it's connected with all the systems and is able to give all the answers, or to guide people, visitors, to the place where they have to go. So I think there is a brilliant future, but it will also, and that is a little bit the fear, productivity gains mean that you probably need at a certain moment less people, or you need different people with different skill sets. And there what we see at a lot of universities, you will need to probably put extensive change management programs in place and retraining and things like that. Because at one university there were even field engineers, they were just literally walking around the campus with pen and paper. And every time when they went somewhere and then they figured out, hey, I do need a different light bulb, then he had to walk back to get the light bulb. And then, there is a huge possibility for productivity and quality improvement. That's, I think, what I see looking at all the new technologies that are coming up. They are so extremely powerful. I think we hardly have an imagination how our world will be different in 3 to 5 years from now.
Okay, well, on that hopeful note, we are out of time. So I must thank our panelists and thank all of you. I hope you got something out of this session, and we'd love to talk to you more about it. Again, the panel's final report should be available in about 30 days. We'll have it posted on the Planon software website and also with links to CFTA. So thanks again.